Hi, I'm Joanna Toch from Family Law Cafe. We're based in London, England, and we're just having some videos about our network. So I'm welcoming on our first event, we're welcoming Shig Hayre. Shig, tell us what you do.
I'm Shig, and I run a company called SP Bespoke Wellbeing Solutions,
Yeah.
and we look after people who are struggling with alcohol and drug dependency.
Okay, and we met,
Families.
didn't we, a few months ago?
We did.
And I'm really interested in how you got into this area. So, how, why are you helping out people with drug and alcohol problems?
Well, it all boils down to me having a problem with alcohol many, many years ago, and you know, the collateral damage that happened with my drinking, and seeking help in the end when I tried to commit suicide. And so there's a lot of collateral damage in my story. I don't know whether you want me to go through my story, which I'm more than happy to.
Do
But
you mind if I ask a few questions? Because, I think that, I have Family Law Cafe. It's something I'm passionate about. So
yeah,
I have my story of why I set it up.
yeah,
As I am always interested in why people, what gets them up, why they do it,
yeah.
and really what brought you here. So there must be something quite strong in your backstory to bring you
Well, there
to
is. I
this.
mean, obviously, it starts with as a childhood suffering from abuse and bullying and etc. etc. Which I didn't think played a big part in what happened to me. But I started drinking at the age of 13. Left school, started getting in trouble, and then with some luck, I suppose, I managed to start my own business up at a very early age and became quite wealthy. And so basically, it's started drinking at 13, and I didn't really think I was drinking any more or any less than anybody else. But as the years progressed, um, it started to get out of control, and I wasn't recognising it, and and it cost me a lot, as in collateral damage. I have not seen my oldest daughter for over 30 years. Consequence of my drinking. I got done for drink driving a few times. I had a company in California. I had a few companies here in the UK. I
What were your
lost.
companies? What? I mean, obviously you were successful. It sounds really successful. We had a company in California.
Hmm.
Where do you come from originally?
I'm Leicester born and bred, would you
Leicester.
believe?
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
the accent
yeah.
there. I
My
could hear it.
parents are from India, but
Yeah.
I know I'm 63 years old now. I was born and bred in Leicester.
So
So,
you get this successful business, and what were you doing?
well, it was plastics, recycling,
Hmm.
and manufacturing.
Okay.
I also ran a same-day courier business, which is a load of vans up and down the country. I
Yeah.
also ran a limousine company, an American stretch limousine. And then over in California, I had Rico Plastics, which is another plastics company, recycling over there.
So to you, what you've said is that your drinking was just normalised.
Yeah.
So when you started, was it, I mean, just was it going out with your mates, or what was it? It was daily
It was
drinking?
just normal drinking, as far
Mm.
as I was concerned. I didn't think there was a problem with it. But now looking back at it, I can definitely see that there was something there. There was something missing in my life, and this sort of. I've had people say to me when they first had a drink, it sort of lit them up like a Christmas tree and made them feel
Well, that gave you
great.
some
Yeah,
energy.
yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I don't recall that.
Yeah.
What I do recall was it took the fear away, it took the anxiety away, and it took the worries away. So I
Yeah.
was always a worrier,
Okay.
um, so and so it progressed, and you hear a lot of this where it progresses.
Yeah.
So it starts somewhere with trauma, um, and as you go through life, you sort of bury everything by drinking or taking
Yeah.
drugs. I'm afraid
And it's always available, isn't it? That's
it's
the thing about
available.
alcohol, it's
Yeah,
always there.
yeah, it is always there. But what I always try and put across to anybody who I'm helping is I'm not scared of alcohol. I don't, run away from alcohol. It doesn't stop me going to parties. It doesn't stop me going to functions and weddings. And I don't mind buying alcohol for somebody else and pouring them a drink. That's not what, for me, this is all about. This is about me not drinking and living life without drink, knowing that I can't drink.
And what was it that made that change? Because you said that it
Suicide
was
attempt.
okay.
That
All
was
right.
the final attempt. I never
Yeah.
really attempted to stop drinking. I had the money. It was, I could afford to drink. but my behaviour and 3 times drink driving speaks for itself, I suppose. The fact that I lost my marriage, the fact that, you know, things were going down the pan for me, and yet I never really accepted any help or wanted any help. And I think it was the fear that were keeping me away. You know, what am I going to be like? You know, I was 46 years old when I eventually tried to commit suicide. It didn't work, but it left me with the brain of a 4 or 5 year old child. So it nearly worked, you know. So I actually stopped drinking without even knowing that I've stopped drinking, to be honest with you, if that sounds...
Did anyone help you?
Yeah, I got thank God my family got me assistance in California, flew me over to California, and there's some specialist people over there who helped me, and that's what this business is based about. It's
Okay.
based around that particular, and that was 17 and a half years ago.
So you got to that, it sounds like, but correct me if I'm wrong, that you liked drinking, you could drink. There were a lot of red flags waving,
There
which
was
you
lots.
just carried on
Carried
until
on.
it really got to a stage where you couldn't ignore it. Would that be fair?
I think everybody else knew I had a problem and told me I had a problem. It was me, and I knew I had a problem, to be honest with you. But this illness, which is what I call it, a disease, what I call it, is the only illness known to mankind that tells you haven't got it. You know, you're waking up every day doing the same thing over and over again. What's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing over and over
Yeah.
again, expecting a different result. And yet that's what I did every day.
So you were in that fortunate position that there were people that were there to
Yes.
help you.
Yes.
That worked. And what's your definition of it working and you changing?
Well, my definition of it working is the reason I set up SP Bespoke Wellbeing Solutions is because I believe there's a lot of models out there that don't seem to work. And I think one of the reasons they don't work is because they're not tailoring it to a lot of individuals. They're tailoring it to a lot of people. So, you know, and I don't really want to call anybody in this business residential rehabs or self-employed counsellors. I don't want to call anybody. They're all doing the best. But I just believe in the model that I've got and what I started. This works. You know,
Yeah.
I believe we're making a difference. And the reason we're making a difference is because we're actually doing it and tailoring it to the individual and the family.
So I found out about what you were doing. It's called SP Bespoke. Okay. Tell me about the SP first.
Well, the SP is, would you believe, Shig and Paul, who was
Okay.
my business partner when I first started, who's now retired, and but I've kept the name SP Bespoke, and so that's how we got the SP, and then I wanted the Bespoke because it is a bespoke service we're offering. It's very, very tailored and bespoke to the individual and the family.
So tell me what you do.
Well, basically, how it works with us is we take a free call. We don't advertise to the public. All our work is referred over to us, and we talk to the family. And if they like what we do and are interested in our service, we go down to their homes and we do an assessment. And we spend 4 hours with that particular family anywhere in the country, and we need to get to the bottom of all their issues. You know, and we need to get to know that person and get to know what they've been through and how bad their drinking is affecting their lives and the lives of the family, or drugs, or whatever the addiction they've got. And if they can afford our services, we then book a team in, and we've got team members who are experts in every single field, whether it be domestic abuse, sexual abuse, child abuse, you know, PTSD, autism, ADHD, you name it. We've got the team members who we can call on who can help these people, and so we identify all the things that are going on with them. And the difference between our services is very, very, very quick service. It's anywhere from 7 to 21 days. So, but we're full on in there, and we stay in hotels. We don't live with the family, and we're on call 24 hours a day. But we're tailoring that service to that family, to that whole family. And I think that's the difference. We're very, very family orientated. So we counsel everybody in that family.
Yeah. So there's a few things I picked out about that. Firstly, when you get a call, how quickly do you get there if they want you there?
We're a very, very quick service. There's no longer than 1 week to 2 weeks maximum before we're available. We'll do an assessment pretty much immediately.
So say, and then I also picked out that you talk to all the family.
Yes.
Yeah. Why is that important?
Family is very, very important for a simple reason. This is a ripple effect. It's like throwing a stone in a pond and watching the ripple effect. It affects everybody in that family. So you normally find that the family is suffering with codependency, and enabling that person to drink, and also emotional blackmail and anger, resentments. All these things affect the whole family, especially if one of the siblings is a problem and it's upsetting the family and the mum, the dad and everybody. So it's very important for us to get involved with the whole family, and as much as we can, and explain the illness to them, and also get him involved in the process as to what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're doing it. And it works so well.
So could it be that there might be someone in the family who, they might be saying they're unhappy about the behaviour, but maybe they're not. Maybe it fits.
Sometimes
What do you find?
you never know, the reasons or until you get the call. You never know what we're up against. But we will pick that up on the assessment. We will definitely pick that up on the assessment.
And then you said it could be alcohol, it could be drugs. What else? What other things?
Any addiction. We've got experts in all the fields.
Workaholism, sex addiction.
Workaholism, sex addiction, gambling, you name it, shopping,
Shopping. Yeah.
But you normally find that one ties into the other.
And can people have multiple addictions?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
Most people do.
Yeah.
Most people do.
I mean, there is an argument probably, isn't it, that everyone's on some kind of spectrum of addictions even?
I think everybody's got some kind of...
I suppose it just depends how serious it is.
Well, how it comes out. Some people, I believe I've got a bit of ADHD and OCD, but it doesn't come out to be recognised by people. But I'm fully aware of being in the business that I feel I've got them traits.
Yeah. And why I was really interested is obviously with Family Law Cafe, we're trying to give people assistance with their family law case, but addiction is one of those factors that so often is part of the factual framework that we're dealing with.
Totally. And that's one of the reasons, again, why we looked at starting this business, because my ex-business partner was a lawyer, and he'd been a lawyer for 30 years. So, what we did then was we looked at people. We know that people get disciplinary at work. We know they have disputes with business partners. We know families are splitting up because of someone's drink or alcohol issues. And there's a lot of law involved in that. Now, I think when you go into rehabilitation centres, and again, I'm not going to say which ones or whatever because I don't know, but, I'm not sure that they do that. You'll go in there and you'll come back out, you've still got all them issues to deal with, where we're dealing with them while we're working with the family. And the second, thing that makes us unique is we're my business consulting, we're business people as well. So what happens there is that a lot of our clients happen to be self-employed. So we troubleshoot their business because their business is not being running right.
See, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, and you must look at your own example.
Yeah.
You're so successful,
So
so capable,
Yeah.
and I suppose that you are also able to have that addiction. But it's going to have an effect on the business, isn't it?
Totally.
And on the life.
Well, the business went bankrupt, and this is why this is all based around my experience. I could have done with Family Law Cafe, for sure, when I was going through my divorce and my child access and everything else. Again, like I said, I've not seen my daughter for a long, long time, so I never did approach anybody. And then when my businesses were in trouble, I was on my own. So I could have done with some business consultancy work done on my business. So if you look at the package that we put in place, we really have wrapped ourselves around the whole family. And now some of them don't need family law. Some of them don't need business consultants. Some of them just need that. But it's there.
Because you're investigating the whole situation. Just as, and we come at a similar situation from a different angle.
Yes.
Because people come to us sometimes, well, often they're in crisis, or it's an emergency. Oh, I have a hearing next week, or something's happened.
Yes.
And I always love it when people come and it hasn't got as bad as that, because I feel that I can assist more. Obviously, we'll always assist in any situation, but it seems a similar thing that with addictions, people get to such
It's a shame.
level.
It's a shame that they do. I mean, you know, if I had £1 for everybody who tells me they're not ready yet, I'll be a multi-billionaire.
About to say, so
Yeah,
is,
you know,
people often say, but the person has to be ready.
Yeah,
What do you say about that?
I hate the word. I hate it to the, you know, I hate the word rock bottom. And, you know, the way I look at it is this is a killer. And, you know, if you look at what alcohol and drugs do, especially alcohol, you know, people are drowning in baths. People are choking on their own vomit. People are dying of alcohol poisoning. People are walking across the road and getting knocked over. You know, these things are happening every day. You know, so you never know when the end's going to be for you anyway. But I don't think I can name any other illness that a family member would see their person who's suffering, you know, want to suffer more before they'll step in.
Well, you often hear
You
this,
know,
don't you? They have to get
they
to
have
rock
to-
bottom.
yeah.
Do you think they have to get to rock
No, I
bottom?
don't. Not at all.
Quite shocking,
No,
isn't
I
it?
don't. And the reason I don't is because we can identify that. We are interventionists. We have done so many jobs where, you know, they're told us a family member's not ready, yet they're worried. And they're paid us to go down there and talk to that individual. And sometimes that individual doesn't even know we're going down there. But by the time they've spoken to us and listened to what we have to say, you'll be surprised how many of them, at least 99% of them, turn around and say, yes, we need help. Because I know what it's like, that fear of taking that stuff away from me. What will I be like? What kind of personality am I going to be? I've used that choice of drug or drink for so many years as a coping mechanism. You know, it's a tough one. But when you get somebody understanding, and somebody understanding you as a person, and seeing you as somebody who's suffering with an illness, it makes a lot of difference. A lot of difference.
I know that you've used this phrase to me. We go and put our arms around them.
Yes, wrap our arms around
Yeah.
it.
And I feel then with Family Law Cafe, I sometimes use phrases like, we just love them through it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we just try to help
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
And I think if you can do that, hopefully it's not a question about being ready. You're just engaging and communicating with people and giving them respect. It's a
Well,
great start.
You know, the difference between our business is that ours is a long-term business, and the reason being is you're not going to cure anybody of these illnesses. You know, it'll always be there as an addiction. So, you know, on the long term, we need to make sure our clients stay well, and that's where again our package comes in, where we never ever charge a client again.
Okay.
We look after them from day one, and they've got free aftercare for us ongoing, the whole family.
I know that people that listening to this will probably be thinking this sounds fantastic, but people are scared, you know, what could it cost? So
well-
what sort of costs?
You
Is it?
anywhere from £7,500 up to 20,000. It all depends on the individual and the individual problems of that particular family, and you know, it's one of them things. I mean, on my website, I've got a young lady that I helped over in Dorset, and they put us in the Dorset magazine actually. And that lady had to find £15,000 on credit cards for us to help her daughter.
But you know what?
But the
So
daughter's
a lot
alive
of
today and
people,
doing really well.
I'm just going to throw this in because I look at lots of people's disclosure documents and what they spend money on. And it's not uncommon that people will have £15,000 of debt on 2 or 3 credit cards.
Yeah.
And if it's going to change your life and
Yeah.
everybody else's, and
Yeah.
you know it's going to work, does seem like quite a good investment.
Well, the problem we're getting at the moment is because this is a concept that was brought out nearly 5 years ago, and there are other people who try and who do what we do, but it's changing that narrative from residential to home.
Yeah,
So,
you're not offering
yeah.
residential
No,
rehab.
we don't offer
you're
residential.
You're
This is-
finding out about
yeah.
what they want, and you say other people are offering it, but are they? I think you're.
I think there
unusual.
are services available. I know there are services available, but you know, I don't. I just talk about our service, what we do,
Yeah.
and we believe we've got the whole package. You know, right from the lawyer side all the way through to the business side, and the team around us. You know, we've got over 500 team members across the country who are self-employed in every single field. So we know we can, you know, get the right people in to deal with the right.
I'm just wondering if you did kind of what I did, because came a time when I thought, okay, I'm just going to get the people in and then I'll find them what they need, because I have all these contacts and this network. So that's what I do with my family law cases. I have a big network now. We spent years building it, and then we just get them what they need. And I think that's what you're doing.
Well, it is. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. So, you know, this took 3 years in the making before me and my ex-partner even press a button on SP Bespoke. You know, we couldn't just start SP Bespoke and say, here we are, and we don't have any team members, you know, so we had to build.
Sounds like us. We must be wandering about the country.
Exactly.
Meeting people at the same time.
Yeah, so we were doing a lot of networking, we were doing a lot of people, but, you know, especially for the team, I need to meet them, I need to know who they are, I need to know what they're about. And when you're working in the system as we're working with people in their own homes. So you've got to be able to fit into that environment, you know, so it's, you know, not many people can do that.
And do you get people that call up, you know, maybe 6 months later?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We love it.
As I understand it, you just look after
We
them.
love it.
Yeah.
I encourage them to call us. Keep in touch with us. Keep in touch with us, because our job is to keep you sober, keep you well. That we encourage that a lot, yeah.
And that's your phrase, isn't it? Get well, stay well.
Get well, stay well is our phrase, because you got to remember that about 90% of our clients have already been into residential rehabs, having to pay us to put it right. Now, when you think of my ex-business partner 2 rehabs later, thought he was unfixable. When you look at my business consultant who you've met, again, a few rehabs later, a lot of money spent, and we got him well, and then he came on board with us. But you know, so they've already spent a lot of money on residential rehabs, and now having to spend it with us, and we're not a revolving door. You know, we've never charged a client twice, never, in all the time we've been together. And that's a thing that we pride ourselves on.
Again,
the
it sounds
aftercare is free.
A little bit like us, that people come to us and say, "I've already spent £30,000, and you're like, okay, we can fix it."
Yes, yes.
We just look through what's the best way of fixing this for that particular person in that situation. So in terms of, do you have a percentage of how many people are successful?
Well, we run on a 97% success rate, and the 3 that did pick up a drink or failed are no longer doing it as well. So, you know, that's the percentage we run at.
That's pretty high.
We could shout that from the rooftops, we could put it in the Daily Mail or whatever, we're not interested. The fact of the matter is, if we expand this business and get too busy, we will water this service down.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, this is not just about money. This is about getting people well, to stay well, keeping families together, not breaking them apart, and doing the best possible thing we can for people. You know, so we're very passionate how we work, and the whole team's exactly like that.
Well, I think what you're doing is incredible. It's been a joy to introduce you to the people that know about Family Law Cafe. And what we do at the end of these talks is I'm going to introduce you to someone else in our network.
Brilliant.
And you haven't met before, but she's in our network. She's amazing. What she does is work in health and nutrition for optimum health. So I'm going to put her in my chair. She's going to finish this talk, and then people will get to know her. And then hopefully anyone watching will watch our next event. Is that okay? You're okay with that?
I'm fine.
And I know we'll meet up soon.
Of course.
Love working with you.
Yeah.
Love what you do. You work in the same way we do.
Yeah.
I totally believe in everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm going to introduce you to Jules Anderson.
Thank you.
Stay right there.
Hi, Shig. It's really lovely to meet you today.
Nice to meet you too.
I can see a lot of synergies in the kind of things we do, because I get a lot of working in health, nutrition and well-being. I get a lot of people coming to me that aren't just dealing with the sort of health issues like, you know, the weight or the cardiovascular. They're also dealing in the background, either themselves or with family members who are dealing with some kind of addictions. So what would be really interesting is just to hear from you, particularly in terms of food and alcohol is what I come across most commonly.
Right.
You know, for people dealing with, say, other family members, where there's a distance and there's a feeling of disempowerment. Because when I'm working one-on-one with people, I'm always trying to help support them in empowering them in their own health.
Yeah.
But when it's a family member that's, you know, one step removed,
Yes.
that's where there can be such a lot of
Yes.
challenges.
Yeah.
And that people take that on and they feel very disempowered
Yes.
because it's somebody else,
Yes.
someone who they love. So just really be interested in your take on.
Well, I'm totally agree with you. And would you believe a lot of our clients who come to us or refer to us are referred because of that fact. They're actually not the ones that have got the problem. They're actually having counselling done to them because they're living with somebody who has got a problem or a family member who's got a problem. And that's when it gets picked up. So, you know, that's when we get called in. So it's never, nobody who's, I don't think I've ever had a call from somebody who's actually drunk themselves or got a problem with alcohol themselves. It always seems to be a family member who calls us. And it's always a family member that's actually approached a counsellor with their own issues of stress and anxiety that they're suffering with. And then when they go down to look at the nitty gritty of it all, their family member themselves are the ones with the actual problem with alcohol or drugs or addiction problem.
Yeah, and yet it's the family members who seem to take on board all the responsibilities.
They do.
It affects their entire nervous system.
It's
struggle
frightening.
with health.
It's absolutely frightening how much the family suffers. And I've seen it. I've seen it with my own family, and I've seen it with a lot of other families, and it destroys families. These things destroy families, it tears them apart. It really does.
And what would your advice be for someone who's distant from, because again, I've come across people who are no longer, you know, the families, as you were talking earlier, that it can break up families.
Yes.
But then the families who are then on the broken side, they've gone away and got a new relationship, but the families that have been broken apart from it are still struggling. They still care, but they're not directly related to the.
Well, the thing is, you know, look, we have a lot of families that are separated, or couples separated or divorced, and the children, you know, are still there. Sharing access or whatever it is between the children. And so whether you love that person or whether you're in love with that person anymore, whether the marriage is broken down and it's never going to work again, there's still the fact that the children are there. So you always have that part of you that says, look, you know, if I can help in any way or put somebody forward to help you in any way, this is, you know, so there's always that part, you know, that they want to see, because otherwise it's devastating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's devastated.
Yeah, and
So,
in your role, do
yeah.
you pull in that level of, you know, dispersed family? Because, you know, again, I see that quite commonly where, and particularly as you've said, with children, and the children are suffering,
Totally,
and then
totally.
you know, my
And-
clients end up
Yes.
struggling with all of those
Yes.
feelings because their
Yeah.
children are
Totally.
struggling.
And even though you might be divorced from that person, just like my wife divorced me, but my children were still struggling because of it, and because they were struggling seeing me drunk and drink driving and all the rest of it, and slowly but surely killing myself, they were struggling with their own emotions, and of course my ex-wife's feeling that, you know. So it never goes away like that. It is actually trying to repair the whole package here. But the wonderful thing about our services, I never put this service out to high-end people. I never wanted to do that. I want to put this service out to everybody.